Welcome to the Purpose and Profit Club podcast for nonprofit leaders, mission-driven creatives, and social entrepreneurs. Get ready to stop dreaming and start doing. Here, ideas become action. We prioritize purpose and profit. You ready? Let's go. Today, I hosted a live open coaching call for anyone in my world to come join. We dug into re-engaging live events, major gifts, influencer marketing, email marketing, storytelling. I mean, it was one of those calls where I was like, ooh, this is going on the podcast immediately. We had some really great questions come in from organizations that would love to join the club, Purpose and Profit Club, but approval and funding and really not having a budget, air quotes, for professional development. So we talked about that as well. One of the things that I want you to consider and there's like so many actionable strategies you can take from today. So please enjoy and like go forth, put it into action. We talked about some creative ways that you can get approval, get funding to join us in the club, in my group coaching program. Doors close very, very soon. We have a template I'm going to drop into the show notes. You can grab a template and a brochure if you want to share that with leadership. I think of this program as getting in the car, plugging in your GPS, and getting you to exactly where you want to be, and then building upon that and doing it faster and better and more efficient. This does not take a lot of time out of your schedule in the club. You have support. You have extra video trainings and templates and tools and all of that. So you can continue to watch those trainings and things like that if you need them, but it is not required. I will be running Outreach Genius, which is my prospecting and outreach program. It's a sprint, so we do this in a very short amount of time. And I will be running that inside the club very soon. That is the quickest, fastest way to make your money back and just like boom, right out of the gate. Okay. This is not where you invest $5,000 and it takes you months and months and months to make it back. That's never my goal for you. I would love for you to make it back right out of the gate with one simple strategy. You could definitely do that with Outreach Genius. We've had people come in and say, I upgraded one donor from $25,000 to $125,000. I've had one donor that led to 5 new donors because of that one donor. So I teach you that entire process just in that one sprint. That is like just a little tiny appetizer of what we're going to be doing in the club. So if you have questions, if you're like, okay, but is it right for me? Or here's some resistance that I'm getting to joining, or I'm just not sure, reach out to me. Send me a message on Instagram at Splendid Consulting, or you can send me an email and just let me know about your organization. And I will be honest with you. If it's not a fit, I'm going to tell you. If there's somebody else who can better help you, I'm going to refer you to them. I want to make sure that your organization succeeds and is around in 10 years and not around in 10 years doing having the same impact that you're having today, but around in 10 years. And oh boy, has your impact grown? Has your donor pool grown? Has your services and programs grown? That's what we want to see. We want to see those quantum leaps throughout the year. All right, here we go. One of the things that I went over on what day was it? Tuesday, was this 5, 10, 15 method. Type a 1 in the chat if you were on that training, or if you watched the replay and heard the 5, 10, 15 method. Give me a 1 in the chat and a 2 if you did not, if you missed it. Okay. All right, cool. All right, we see some 1s. So the 5, 10, 15 method. Okay, cool. Was basically this idea of like, if I had to make another 100K this year, or another way to do it, depending on your organization size, sort of tap into another 100K in your funding, how would I do it? And for those of you that were on the call, what came up for you? What resonated with you the most? Do you guys, and anyone can just unmute too. So what I said was, what I would do is I would send out 5 emails to your live events. 5 emails automated to your live events. I would do a quick, short series, getting them to re-engage with you. Okay, that's what I would do. Then I would then I would book 10 meetings with mid to high level donors. Okay, that's the next thing I would do. And then the last thing was 15. I would assemble 15 social street teamers to join your social street team for a specific campaign or challenge. So I teach this concept inside the program. This is a digital ambassador program and influencer marketing. So you can get people who are just vocal advocates and volunteers, and then also influencers online who have an alignment with your cause and also already have a place where, they've built trust with their own audience. So it's a great way to get in front of a new audience that has a natural alignment. So that's 15 street teamers. I do like to have this though. I like to have this with a specific campaign. So right now we're in March now. So I would say, all right, for April, there's 2 weeks in April. We're going to do a social street team campaign. So there's a clear start and finish date for them, right? And there's a clear campaign goal. It works like a charm every single time. It's also a great way to actually bring in new donors. All right, Erin says 5 drips sounds like a lot to me, but maybe that's why my 5 drips last fall didn't work. Erin, will you unmute? Let's talk about it.
Wonderful database of lapsed donors, and I'm just really struggling with how to get them back. So last fall it was late. Maybe it was the timing, but it was late. So like November and December, we did a series of 3 drips from our board chair, who had just narrowly lost our mayor's race. So he's a little bit of a celebrity
Got
in
it.
town.
Okay.
So he has the name recognition. So we're like, okay, they'll open it because it's from Mike. And they were miserably unsuccessful.
Okay. If you were gonna like triage that and guess, why do you think it was? And what does miserably unsuccessful look like? Like, what does that look like?
Well, our goal was to win back donors, and we had zero donations from the whole drip campaign, and then the ask, and nobody. So then so then I had to go back to the board president and say, well, thanks for signing this, but nobody but it wasn't successful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, the more I think about it, I think it's that our lapsed donors didn't give they weren't mission aligned in the first place. And so winning them back is difficult. Like I work at a United Way, so maybe they gave before because their boss encouraged them too much, or to make some work thing easier, or I don't know. Like there could be a lot of reasons that people give, and it's not necessarily mission aligned. And so getting them back seems really challenging, but it also seems like this wonderful available untapped market. And now they did not unsubscribe, they just did not give.
Do you know, with your email marketing tool, what the open rates and click-through rates were like? Like, what did those look like?
It's constant contact, and I don't remember, but they weren't horrible. It was like, in the 30% open rate.
Okay. So that's interesting. They opened and maybe some people clicked, and 0. How big of an audience was this?
About like a few hundred.
Okay. And yeah, okay. So here's the thing. At being in a United Way, you're going to get, I would say, more one-off donors than a smaller, more community-driven organization that doesn't have different chapters. Yeah?
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. So it's like we can account for that, but that I don't think is true that they were all like sweepingly not mission aligned. There's probably true for some people that they were going to be a little bit more one-offs, higher than some other types of organizations. But I would say there's more to it. Did they know the board chair? I know you said he had some like name recognition, but had he emailed them before? Had they received any emails from him, like in his voice or anything like that?
Probably not.
Okay.
I mean, some of them were probably on his fundraising, they were probably part of his fundraising asks in his mayoral campaign. I would assume, because our town is not humongous. There's only like 100,000 people that live here. So there's a lot of overlap.
And how, it was 3 emails over the course of what period?
About a month, about 4 weeks.
Okay. Were they all just like story-based emails with a call to action? Were there any social proof videos? Like, what was the content like?
No videos, just all emails. Mostly like programmatic updates. This is what we've been doing. We struggle with on the story side because of the partnership and collaborative nature of our work. So it's not like the actual individual person more as much as let me tell you that, this, I mean, right now we have a really great story because last year we had a 73% success rate in our homeless program that serves the hardest to reach people, which is like super humongous and just unheard of. But we didn't talk about that. We didn't have those numbers in our drips. We would just talk about the updates to the program, but not the actual number impact success.
Okay. Yeah. So you're talking about more features and not benefits, right? And so if
Right.
we want our sort of lapsed or disengaged donor to take another action, we got to talk about benefits. We got to talk about wins. We got to talk about specificity when we can. And slash or we have to talk from the first person and tell our flavor of our version if we don't have that. Because what you just said was really important, which is we didn't really have one or two really great stories to tell for that, given the sort of structure, right? So how could we tell a first person story from the person sending it or another staffer or something like that that has that heart and soul into it, that does describe some challenges, some problems, and some solutions that your organization does help seek to address, and that it works, and that a constant challenge for funding is right, or a constant challenge for meeting the demand that you have is funding. And that's where they can step in. So we do have to become better storytellers. And this is often what you're outlining is a really common version that I see, which is we tried that and it didn't work. And when we peek under the hood of how you tried it, I see a couple of different things. One, we talked way too much about features and not enough about benefits and outcomes and results, right? And two, it just felt like an ominous brand writing sometimes. So it didn't have that heart from the actual person. So that can be another thing. The other thing is I probably would suggest trying it with some video. And I don't mean like hire a videographer video. I mean, grab the iPhone, grab the first person and 60 seconds, 30 seconds, a short little video.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I like to create all of this content is say to myself, I'd pull that list, and certainly there must be one name that on there, right? Or at least to drill into, all right, let's think about Christina. Christina, let me look at her giving history. She gave once or twice. She gave at this level. Let me look at that. Let me have a sense of who she is. Does who I think she is align nicely with the content I'm about to share for these 3 drips? Do you know what I mean? Why or why not? Would this get her up off the couch to go dig out her credit card if she needed to?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I just don't want to give up on, like, it just seems like there's enough potential there that I just don't want to give up, but I don't want to just keep banging my head against the wall and sending them more emails that they're not going to respond to.
Well, here's what's interesting about doing a Libent series like this. What you're also doing at the exact same time is you actually have 2 goals. Your first goal is to re-engage them with a gift, right? That's goal 1. Your second goal is list cleaning. So what we do with this when we have a short period of time with an ask is we're list cleaning, meaning we want people to unsubscribe. I want them to hop off the ride if they no longer want to be on the ride and stay on the ride if they are going to be on the ride. And what's really interesting is you had a lot of people, it sounds like, stay on the ride. They said, no, we're not going to give again, but we are going to keep reading your emails. Like they didn't all sweepingly unsubscribe, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised. Like I thought they would choose one or the other and they didn't. So
yeah.
I don't know if that was just meant it wasn't interesting. Like maybe they opened it and they were just like, okay, whatever, boring.
Not even. Okay. So, it'll be interesting for you to go back and listen to it. You're making really sweeping judgments on the negative. It might not be whatever boring. It might be like my kid walked into the room and I forgot. It might be like, oh, interesting. And then I wasn't really motivated to like click, right? It may not just be, this is a big miserable failure. It may be, okay, maybe you warmed them back up. The fact that they opened it is really, really great. I think there's a lot of opportunity to not just say, we're done and to actually try it again. I would even do it maybe in a shorter container of time. So like 3 weeks, 4 emails, 5 emails, and turn up the volume a little more on friction. And did you call out in your messaging, hey, we noticed you didn't give, or we missed you last year? Did you say that?
I'm not sure. Now I can't remember.
That's okay. I mean, I'm
What
totally,
made
thank
it
you for
into the
doing
final
this.
draft?
Yeah. Thank you for going through this with me. I mean, I think it's so helpful to everyone, but I would call them out. Like if I'm in this list, I want to know like, hey, Christina, we miss you. We noticed that you didn't give last year. Give me the benefit of the doubt. Listen, I may not even realize I didn't do. I may have thought I did, right?
Right.
My husband and I were just talking about a concert I went to, and I was like, that's so funny. It hasn't been that long since this musician toured. And he was like, Christina, it's been 7 years. 7 years. And I was like, was it 7 years? And she goes, yeah. We're figuring out by my son's age. He was a baby when we went and saw her. I was like, oh my God. Okay, noted. So we really
Yeah.
want to come from it's an invitation. We want to give people lots and lots of grace and love. And we also want to have the specificity in that email that it should say in it, this is a targeted group of people. Like the context, the way that you're writing it is written in a way that it's like, we missed you last year. We missed you, right? So that it's not, if it landed in the inbox of somebody who donated last week, it wouldn't make sense. All right, I'm going to go through the chat.
Thank you.
No, this is so helpful. Erin, also, like, this is the stuff we do in the club. I'm curious. Are you thinking about joining the club?
I'm thinking about it. It's a budget challenge. We're not in a positive budget year.
Yeah. That is the point of the club. We get you in a positive budget year fast. What is your role in for your organization?
Development and marketing.
Oh my God, you're perfect for it. Come. Are you kidding me? Let's do a couple of social fundraisers. Let's do a couple of big asks. It's very, and one of the ways that I like to think about organizations who are in positions like yours is who can you tap into to basically help fund this support? Hey, can you help, fund me joining the club so that I can do this? We have a template for that. If you need to get permission, if you want to go to a particular donor and ask them to sponsor you, I think that's a great way to do it. Of like, this is the skill development. This is the accountability. Those are the years oftentimes when you need the support to turn up the volume on your funding. So I'll leave you with that and we can talk more about it.
Thank you.
You got it, Erin. Okay, so let's see. Could you go deeper on what makes a good Libent re-engagement campaign message? Yeah, let's talk more about it, Carolyn. So let's unmute if you can.
I'm really glad, Erin, you jumped in and shared that because that was heavy on my mind. And without any like predisposition, I'm only 6 months into my position with a new organization. I've been in marketing and development for, oh my gosh, 20 years. But this is my first time working with a small local nonprofit rather than one that is a national with local impact. And we have a very messy database is the best way to describe it. It's kind of the patchwork result of lots of starts and stops. And just recently, a big win for us was when I started, we had less than 200 notices or looks on Facebook and Instagram, and we're up to 1,700 now.
Amazing. So we've like turned the lights back on and gotten a bigger
people
reach.
Realize
that feels good.
Right. People realize we exist still. Yeah. Yep. Obviously, please send out the template because yes, I'm very interested in your club. I just have to find funding because I've been told anything like that, I have to fund it. But the message is really challenging to come up with to our Libunts, because some of them came to us, and someone else mentioned this in the chat, Jamie did. Some of them came to us because we held a auction once. Some came because the organization held a raffle ticket sale once. Some came because a board member invited them to give once. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it's almost like what brought them into your world is very varying and their motivation is different.
No consistency in messaging, no consistency in heart-head connection. And I'm like, help, how do I start creating that message to Libunts besides we miss you? And a story about Leonard, who moved from being homeless for 7 years to now being employed and buying his first car. I can tell that story, but I'm not sure how to tie it all together based on people who came to us through so many different avenues.
Well, let's talk about Leonard for a second. And I'm going to use a bit of Donald Miller's work. He does StoryBrand, and he talks sometimes about this idea of negative stakes. So negative stakes is a great way to explain to potential donors and lapsed donors of what happens when we don't have enough funding or we don't grow our funding. What are some of the negative stakes of not being able to help the future Leonards of the world? Does that make sense? Like, talk to me about that.
Yes. Okay, so brilliant. I did not think of that, and that just got my brain where it needed to go, because we're local. Without us, other people like Leonard would still be living on the streets, would still be struggling to find food, housing, daily life needs. Without your funding, the next Leonard is not going to have a safe place to start rebuilding his life. Is that kind of the appeal you're saying to go for?
Exactly.
Oh, you're amazing.
So what we did here is we just called out the pain point that your organization seeks to solve. And the other thing that you did really well is, it sounds to me like in your community, there aren't a bunch of other options.
No, there's 3 of us that all do. I'm in Tucson, Arizona. We're the big little town of the Southwest.
I love Arizona. I love it.
I love my state and I love my city. We're in the top 10 cities in the US, not something to be proud of, that has the highest poverty level for families. Not
How often do you say that?
I have started saying it quite often in my narratives for grants. It was not something, it was considered something to be like hidden.
You and I could have been on this call and you could have said to me, Christina, name the top 10 cities, and we would be on here an hour before I thought of Tucson to be in this list.
Right.
So, especially for the people who are lapsed, who are brought in by a friend, by this one-off event, right? We need to educate them. We need to not assume that they already know that this is a serious, wide problem in your community, right?
Right.
So I would say that often. I almost think an email that's like, we're not proud to be on this top 10 list, or like, this is not the top 10 list we want to stay on, or some sort of hook like that would be really, really interesting and would speak to the education of like the problem we seek to solve.
So can I take that one step deeper without hogging your time with everyone?
You're not.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for your grace. If we started with that, did you know this is the top 10, like something like Tucson's top 10. Nope, nothing to be proud of, or some kooky little thing that gets them to read further, to then be like, lead into we miss you and you are the reason we can change the lives for the next Leonard type thing. Is that how you see that? Okay.
It's donors like you who help us get off this list one level at a time. We are like chipping away. This is not the list we want to be on. We want to be on the top 10 list. And now let's move it from kind of more pain point negative stakes to aspirational. What top 10 list do you want to be on? Maybe the top 10. You tell me, what would be a great top 10 list to be on?
Honestly, I think it'd be great if, we just on the opposite end, Tucson was recognized as the top gastro pub city in the US. Mm-hmm. So how cool would it be that we were also the top 10 for fair employment, earning wages, working and earning wages, and unemployment. So
yes. Painting that picture. And then it's like, again, we can't do it without you. We simply can't get on that list. We can't even start to move the needle without ongoing continued support. And the other piece on these lapsed donor emails is we want to make sure that call to action for them to donate again, to step up again, is not at the bottom of the email. We want it there, but we also want it higher up in the email. We want it multiple times. Because again, I always use my lovely kids as an example. If I only get to read a couple seconds of that email, I want to make sure I got it quickly and that you didn't bury the call to action at the very end if they walked in the room to distract me. Make sense? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So Carolyn, think about that. I would also think about running this again. You've had enough time now between when you last ran it and you could absolutely run another lapsed donor series. I'd probably go 4 emails, something like that, and a short clip, like 3 weeks. We want to add a little friction. Make sense?
100%. Thank you.
Okay. And you should absolutely come in the club. You need to join. It would be so good. And I hear you on, we don't have a professional development budget. This isn't in the budget. And it's that, what is it? Like chicken or the egg that keeps organizations stuck. That is the exact mentality, is if you can't invest in your people, it's very hard to grow. If you can't invest, you're like, agreed. Yeah. If you can't invest in support, it's hard to do anything different with like a small up level year over year. And that is exactly what I'd call one single donor and say, listen, this is the cost of the program. This is how much these are the results I'll create with it. It is very hard for me to do this, like flying by the seat of my pants, hopping into a couple of free things here and there. Yeah. And I would just say, can you help support me? And maybe go to 2 donors and say that, or 2 board members or something like that. I would absolutely, we've had people join who have said that. We have people join who have said, this was a hard ask for my board, but I said, this is what I'm committed to doing. I'm committed to showing up for this. I'm committed to making it happen. And they said yes. So it's that personal up level too, I think, that helps get you the support and traction you need. Yeah. And I will make sure that I drop in that template too one more time. And we have a brochure. So if you're somebody who likes a template, like a written template, or if you're somebody like me who just wants like a quick PDF to send to somebody, you could do that too. It's on the template. You can grab that brochure. Okay. Yeah. All right. Going through the chat. Anyone else want to just unmute and ask a question? I'm going to just breeze through the chat here and make sure there's nothing else that I missed.
Hey, Christina.
Hi. Yes. How are you?
I feel guilty jumping in because we had such a good coaching session yesterday.
You are welcome to jump in. I was happy to see you.
Thanks. Something occurred to me just now with our live bunts. I was looking at what that list is. It's like 200 people gave last year, but not this. Mm-hmm. Just that small group. And they are about to get a spring appeal letter. They got a December appeal letter. They're going to get a March appeal letter. Because I'm going to keep asking them the traditional way. Is it okay to send them the drip series too?
Yes.
That's not doubling down, is it?
No, we're just like, I love the way that you phrase this question. That's not doubling down. That's not too much, is it? Those are all questions that for-profit businesses who make billions of dollars each year literally never ask. If anything, they're like, how do we double down more? They're going to their ad agency, they're going to their marketing team, and they're like, how do we get in front of Christina's eyeballs more Do you know what I mean? It's like the
Yeah,
exact
yeah.
opposite question.
Well, that's my MO, you know that. So
That's everybody's. No, everybody. I mean, like you have a human brain. We all do, especially in this sector. It's the opposite. We're thinking, I don't want to bother people. I don't want to turn them off.
yeah, yeah.
What I'm hearing is not the flavor of, Christina, I'm going to send them an email a day until they give. Okay, that might be peppering them a little too much, right?
Got it.
But
So
if they're
I can draw
getting,
the line there, huh?
yeah, if they're getting a direct mail piece from you this spring, beautiful. And then they get put on a 3 to 5 email drip series, specifically using language that highlights to them who they are, which is an amazing, generous person who we missed last year, who didn't give last year, positioning it like that, right? I would probably say we miss you or some flavor of that. That is written for them. I think that's fine. Now, I would go ahead and expect some people are going to fall off and unsubscribe, and that's normal. That's a list cleaning opportunity. That's great. And some people are going to go, oh crap, I thought I did. Oh, wow. Well, I didn't think my gift mattered that much. Some flavor of that. Or maybe just, damn, they're doing a lot. I want to give again. Some flavor of motivation for them to take action. But we really have to get in front of them often and quickly. And this is also for, I think, Erin, who said she already did I think she sent 3 emails in the year end. Let's also remember, and this is probably why I say 5, is let's also remember that people didn't open and read all 3 emails. Some people did. 30% of your list did that you sent it to. But what about Christina? What about Julie, who read 1 of the 3 emails? That's not enough, right? So 5 emails gives people more opportunity to for you to land the plane of your mission, some negative stakes, some aspirational pieces, and really add in those calls to action, because most people in this lapsed donor segment are not going to sit there and read all of the emails you send.
Well, that's so true. And you think about, how we manage our own inboxes, same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like the reminders that you gave us for today's coaching call.
Yep.
I really appreciated that, because it totally slipped my mind. And when you sent this morning, I was like, oh yeah, I should jump in.
One of my favorites that comes to a lot of our calls, he's in Uganda, and he was one of the reasons why I send more reminders. He's like, can you please send me, he loves the "we are live now" reminders. And it's like, I get it. Because the time zone change is bananas. And are we on standard time or not? And I'm like, you know what? Same. I get it. Send people reminders. Oftentimes we're doing them a disservice by not. And I will also share personally, we just got an email that said, it's time for spring photos for my kid's school. And my first thought was, oh, I didn't order the fall photos. So yeah, this is why we need reminders. We are a distracted society. And so having a short period of time is a great service to give to your mission and to the people who actually at some point said, yes, I want to give. Yes, I want to support it. I want to support you. So giving them another opportunity, I think, is really important.
One last quick thing, that 7 years ago, the concert was 7 years ago story. I mean, that happens to all of us. And I'm sitting there thinking about my lapsed donors who are still subscribed in MailChimp.
Yep.
And I thought, I need to grab that list again. I looked at it. I ran it January 2023. It has been sitting on my computer for more than a year, and I haven't done anything with it. And I could have sworn it was 6 weeks ago.
Yes, exactly. Time is a weird thing. And one of the other things for these lapsed donor pieces is, if you can get specific and figure out who are my VIPs on there, who are the people that consistently gave multiple years at a mid to higher level that are my VIP lapsed donors, and what do I want to do for them? It may likely be beyond that series, right? It may be picking up the phone and just saying, here's what we're up to. And I thought of you today. And it may be sending a personal video, a personalized short video. Hey, Christina, thought of you today. Da, 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 da. So who are my VIPs? You can even think of your lapsed donors that way, of just who are the people, even if they're not as high in capacity, but wow, I could count on them to give for the last 5 years, and then they just kind of fell off. Let's see if we can get them back, because they were highly engaged for a longer period of time.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Let's see. Ginger, how can I help you? Karen is here as well. Any questions?
I am here just to kind of listen and
Yeah.
just to see what everyone else has going on. Like Jamie was saying, you know, a lot of the people, we have a lot of one-timers who gave for an event.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have a board that is not fundraisers.
Okay.
They're not very active. So any tips on how to get them more engaged?
Is there a part of your board that is open to fundraising? Are they adverse to fundraising, or they just don't have a playbook?
You know, I think we have like our board president who has done fundraising in the past,
Okay.
who is up for it. But
Yep.
so we're an affordable housing nonprofit, and we have a couple of our low income residents on the board. And then a couple others who are on like multiple boards and I think, you know, kind of spread thin. And my boss and I talk about this all the time, you know, how do we get them engaged more? So I'm actually compiling a list for her to give to them just to make personal phone calls to our donors from last year, just to kind of get that ball rolling.
How big is your board?
We have 10.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So
and
we
could go up to 12.
So we probably have some budding fundraisers on there that just haven't kind of not put me in coach hasn't happened yet, right? They haven't been pushed in just yet.
Yeah. And
so
a couple of them are pretty young. So, you know, there's hopes there.
When you say pretty young, what does that mean?
Mid-20s.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. All right. I have lots of thoughts. First isn't it funny how pretty young is subjective, by the way?
Well, I'm 60, so
I'm
20
like, we're
is
all
young.
pretty young. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So with boards, I like to think of it as not everybody on the board is going to be a rock star fundraiser, and that's okay. They will have different skill sets. I do think they all should be responsible for bringing in some revenue, but in different ways, if that makes sense. It's like, not everybody is going to want to present on a stage, right? Some people are like, I'd rather die. That sounds horrible. But they are great at other things that I don't want to do, right? So we want to lean in and find people's like own preferences and then figure out how does that preference help them inform them to some ways that they can help fundraise. So I care less about I need all 10 to do the exact same thing and more about how do I activate all 10 to become fundraisers in maybe like 2 or 3 different ways. So the thank you notes is a really great one because it's such passive. Like it requires, if you're shy or feel icky about asking for money, great. Go ahead and warm up. Everybody's going to do some handwritten notes. But it is, and it's also like getting them into action, which is this is what it's like to be on a board, dear board member. Jamie says, get them to send thank you texts. That's the meet them where they are. So for the people who are in their 20s or even 30s, most of them are probably online. Most of them probably have Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever the things are. So meeting those people where they are on social media and letting them fundraise on social media, I think is really, really important. I have a template I created that this is in the club too, where we create a peer fundraiser. Now you can use this for your board and you give them a digital toolkit, because one of the reasons why peer fundraisers don't work, ambassador influencer programs don't work, is because you're relying on them to like create the pitch, create the appeal, create the graphic, create the LinkedIn. Yeah, I don't want to do that either. But when you have cut and paste pre-written copy, it's so easy for board members, for influencers and ambassadors to like run with it. We give them a digital toolkit to run with. So we definitely want to do that for our 20s and 30 something board members. Although I want to give you the caveat that many of my clients do this for their entire board who are all the way up to retired age, and they rock it. The difference is for somebody who may be in their 60s or 70s, although I hate making generalizations like, oh, they're not on social media, because many times they are on Facebook, especially. But let's just go ahead and say we have board members who are not on social media. Totally fine. Some of the best fundraisers using this digital toolkit, which is a social street team, that's what I call it, they send emails. They just email, good old fashioned email, their friends, family, old coworkers. And I love it because they will sometimes do it as a, mini mass email. So they would just put 4 or 5, 10 people in an email that all have a common thing in common. Maybe they all used to play tennis together. Maybe they all were former coworkers or colleagues together. So, or they will do individual. Well, they'll just bust through their contact list and send 10 emails to 10 of their closest friends, family, wherever. It works so well. And then the other thing is, you said your board member, it's like you kind of have one who I think is a little more engaged, right? For fundraising. This is that, like, we just need one and we just need the endorsement to get a little traction. So one of my clients did this last fall. And then all it took, so they had the board member email in the toolkit, and, the ED said, here's the plan, here's what it is. And then, the reminder, now's the time, again, here we go. And it just took one board member hitting reply going, hey, you guys, I just did this. I already doubled my own goal. It was so easy. I just sent emails out. And for that one board member to say, I did it, it wasn't painful, and I already hit my goal, was like, and guess what happens in me? And it probably will happen in a lot of people. If I was on that email, it would be like, well, I want to double my goal. My like competitive piece starts to come out. And suddenly my motivation is way higher than it was, right. Exactly. So that is another piece we can do to get some traction with board members, but we've got to make it easy and we got to meet them where they are. So when you hear the objection, oh, Ginger, I'm not on social media, you go, no problem. Not a problem, Jim. Here's how we're doing it. Do you have an email? Do you have a phone? Do you want to text some people? Like, do you have a community group you go to? Like, we literally can use this for anything. If this person is a member, let's say they go to an art class like I do. They go to their ceramics class. Hey, would you talk about it at your art class? Like we meet them where they are. I don't want your board member to go start a TikTok, because that's what, you know what I mean? Like, that's so, like, I don't want to do that either. We just want to meet them where they are. And then this becomes a scalable piece where we start to actually bring in social street teamers who do have vocal platforms, for example, on Instagram or on TikTok or wherever the people are. YouTube's another great one, who are naturally like, I love being on this platform. Let me actually use it for good. We see that with Gen Z all the time. It's so good. They want to use their platform for good. One of my other clients is doing this right now. Her first street team had over 10 people on it. She hit 50K very, very fast because of that. Yeah. So we just have to find that alignment, and then it becomes like this very scalable process. Okay, Jamie says that peer pressure is great. I plant a couple of board members to reply all. Yes. And so honestly, this is the same piece. If you've ever planned a campaign and you secure a donor match ahead of time, and then you say, in the middle of the campaign, you announce the donor match, you're just seeding your own success with that. It's sort of that same philosophy of like, hey, Julie, could you respond to this email and let everybody know that not only was it not painful, it was fun. It was fulfilling. It was easy. So Ginger, awesome. What comes up to all that? Like, what do you feel like? Because your initial question was just like, how do I engage my board members?
Yeah. So I mean, the next step will be creating that toolkit.
Well, come in the club, come get the template, come get the support.
Well, like some others on here, we're very small but mighty team.
Yep.
And I don't like to spend money that I don't have to. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of these free webinars and things to, stay up to date.
Mm-hmm.
But you said you would put in the template of how to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So I will be giving that a look.
Okay, so I just want to highlight, I don't like to spend money where I don't have to is a great philosophy to keep your revenue exactly the same.
Mm.
I'm a perfect example of this. So when I owned my marketing agency, I had a business partner who also subscribed to that very same philosophy. And we were really good at year over year, rinse and repeat, same old, same old. And when I ultimately closed that agency and launched my solo shop, and I could make my own decisions very quickly on where I wanted to invest my brain, my skill set, my support, my accountability. Those leaps, by the way, are never easy. It's never easy to be like, here's $10,000, right? Here's $5,000. They are leaps. They do feel expansive. And I always 5x, if not 10x my own investments. That's kind of how I look into it is how do I 10x this? How do I 10x this? And I always do because you are where you are. I like to think of money as a lagging indicator. Revenue is a lagging indicator of everything you've been doing in the past 6 months, the past 12 months. So if you want your revenue to increase many, many times, it does require an investment up front before we have proof, right?
Yep.
Of what's to come, right? It's really, really part of the deal. And again, I'm going to go back to the for-profits. They know this. On Tuesday's workshop, I had mentioned a bit about Charity Water, which it blew my mind just looking at the numbers, $100 million organization. But I loved seeing in their 990, they're spending almost $200,000 a year on coaching. Their consultants, tons, way higher on consultants. Their marketing support, huge. And I know they have in-house and outside support with agencies. And it's like they have thrown out the old rule book of I don't like to spend a lot of money and said, how do I invest in our people? How do I invest in our capacity building? How do I invest in support and accountability so that we can get here to 100 million? And then somebody said in the chat on that, they were like, yeah, and they haven't even hit their goal yet. Yeah, they're not even done at 100 million. They're like, no, that's not it. We're not done. Right. So it's like, it does require a different philosophy, a different way of thinking to invest in yourself, in your organization up front. But in my opinion, and so many of my other clients, that's how we get from A to Z. Like that's the next layer of those revenue leaps and also the visibility. To me, the two go hand in hand is how do we get our organization more visible so more people know about us, so more people want to participate in our social street team, in our volunteer, in our, young advisory board. How do we do all that? Well, the two go hand in hand. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it, Ginger. You got it. I know. That was just a loving push, right? All right. Carolyn says, this is our CEO's philosophy and why she hired a development director to increase funding without changing the way we fundraise. Say more. Yeah. Say more, Carolyn.
I was actually just commiserating with Ginger because again, coming from the world of the nonprofit that is the more established national nonprofit that understands you get what you put into your people, coming to a local nonprofit that's like, but this works. But then you look at the numbers and you're like, but wait, there's more because the numbers are telling me a story that we put X effort in and we're getting a reduced return on our investment year after year because we're not increasing our effort. So that was it. It was just the whole idea of a coaching opportunity to invest in ourselves is huge. It's for the first time in my life, something I'm now going to have to convince people that this is worth the investment. And it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the organization. off the soapbox now. Sorry.
No, I love that. I'm thinking of another organization I work with, and just the cost for them to do business, for them to their programs, to execute the programs, the exact same year over year now costs so much more because of shipping, transportation, supply chain, things like that. So it's like, we got to hit the gas. We got to hit the gas on our revenue just to serve the exact same number of people, which, by the way, isn't our goal. Our goal is actually to serve way more people. So if we're going to make that leap, how do we do it? How do we make that leap? And it cannot be tactically exactly what we did last year. It cannot be thinking the exact same way I thought last year, because that's going to get me, as we know, at least the same results, if not like a little bit of a dip. So it does cost. It does mean taking the leap and the investment, but it's like, you're investing in, I would say this to your CEO or your board, you're investing in us right now. You're paying us, right? So you're already investing in us. I want to be more time efficient. I want to be more focused. I want to have a bigger impact. And this is the support I need to do it. And what we'll do inside the club is not like endless video trainings and things like that. It's live coaching to go, what do I focus on this week? Because what I don't want you to focus on is, shopping out your CRM for the 10th time. I don't want you to focus on hours and hours and hours to write one single email. It is about decisive action. It is about courageous action to get us forward faster. Yeah. Okay. I see some yeses. Erin says, yeah, it's similar to the I must have low overhead equals scarcity mentality and working in fear all the time. I went on a whole rant. I think it's for it'll be in an upcoming podcast interview. I'll share it with you, but low overhead is not something that should be a badge of honor for your organization. Low overhead is something where an organization said, good news, we have low overhead, which means we pay our staff barely a living wage. Good news, the food pantry that we have, our own staff sometimes need to use it, right? Like, that is not a badge of honor, but it does take the leap of educating our donors that paying people well, investing in professional development, which, again, my husband last year said, I have a $2,000 budget for professional development. It's use it or lose it. Where do I go? What should I do? And it was so expansive and capacity building for him to go, what would make the most sense? What's the best use of this that will help my output for the company I work for? Why aren't we doing that in the nonprofit sector? We have to educate our donors that not only that skill building helps increase their bottom line, but it also helps decrease churn. And the cost of churn is way, way higher than any savings that we would get off of like a lower wage employee or something like that. So I'm all about paying people well and having that translate to higher funding, higher impact. So yeah. Wait, let's see what Jamie said. Okay, Jamie says, I've been asking my board members to find $5,000 and $10,000 donors, and it's not doing great. So my new approach is simpler. I asked one of them to ask 20 people to give a $50 gift. Yeah. So that's really interesting, because it's like everybody got locked up probably in their head about like, I don't know who could give 10K, right? It just made them go freeze. But yeah, do I know 20 people who could give $50? Yes. And then Jamie, like, you already have this skill set. So then I'll start to get to know them. I can start to cultivate them that way. Yeah, that's so good. And that speaks to like when people, this is kind of the board piece of like, I can't seem to get them into action. Well, what would be the first step that I could get them to take today? Because a $5,000 donor, a $5,000 donor intro seems to be too hard for them. It's too looming. So what step could I ask them to take today? Could you text 3 people, who could give $50? Oh, I love that. That's so good. All right. I see Elaine joined. Elaine, if you want to unmute and ask any questions, we've been talking about lapsed donors. We've been talking about board member engagement. We've been talking about influencer marketing, everything, but you're welcome to unmute and ask a question.
It's actually been good to listen what people were sharing.
Totally.
As a new ED of a year and a half, I never had an issue asking for money in previous positions, but this whole thing being ED and fundraising is very interesting. It's challenging, especially writing grants and I thought everybody said yes, and I found out they don't when it comes to grants. So, I just feel like it's got to be a better way for donors to create that space where we could be at the table with them. Because one of the challenges I find is like there's a middle person, right? It's like, how do we get? One of the things I've asked our local foundation, is how do we get to have lunch with the funders versus someone else sharing my passion with a funder, right? Because me sharing my passion versus someone else sharing my passion are very different. And so it's tricky.
It's like a game of telephone. Yeah. You're like, I
Yes,
don't want
yes.
it. You're like, get me in the room. Get me in the room and I can do
In
this.
the room.
So what was the answer to that question when you asked it?
A lot of funders want to remain anonymous.
Is it true?
I don't know. I'm still learning. I have no idea. It's like I said, it's hard to navigate.
So tell me about your organization. Give me some more context.
We're a housing advocacy organization. Yeah, we educate and advocate for affordable housing throughout Santa Cruz County.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how old is your organization?
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and what's your donor pool look like now?
Our largest funder is Lucille Packard.
Yeah.
But a lot of local community board organizations. We see some grant funding from our foundation, community foundation. And we're just building. Like my time, a lot of my time is spent finding out where do you get grants, right?
Okay, I'm so glad you said this.
That's so key.
Stop
for me.
it. Stop. No more. I would not spend a lot of time figuring out where do you get grants. I don't think that is a good use of your time.
Okay.
From where you presented, it sounds like you're saying, put me in coach. Let me talk to a funder.
Yes.
Talk to somebody. So then that says to me, let me go have some major gifts conversations. Let me start to cultivate some individual giving versus trying to Google grants and then apply for the grants and then wait and then may or may not be awarded the grants. And then we got to report back to the grants. I love grants. That's fine. But I love it over here once we've got a nice base level of revenue. Does that make sense? I also love sort of what Erin's saying, which is I love grants to be fractioned off to a consultant who is an expert and already knows your sector, or what she just said was a board member. Like, who can we get? But for you, I wrote an email a few days ago about like, you need a bigger shovel. You need a bigger shovel. We need more revenue. So I want you to go one-to-one, face-to-face, and cultivate some major donors or mid-level donors. And grants are taking too much time for them. Yes. Because I'm individual donor is booking a meeting, having the meeting, right? Starting that cultivation process. I like that cultivation process to go fast. I don't like it to go years, 6 months to a year. I don't like that. And making an ask and hearing no. I want you to hear lots of no's so you can hear lots of yeses. Oh, okay. And really rinse and repeat that process. Okay. How does that resonate?
Love it. So I'm glad you said this helps because we're going to be running a housing bond for the November ballot. And I shared with my new coach, vice board chair, I says, I need a grant writer. Yep. Can the board fundraise? Can y'all do that over there? Do that. Yeah. Can y'all fundraise for that person so that that frees me up? So I'm glad I'm on the right track there.
Because that's like having your CEO be the grant writer. I don't want your CEO to be the grant writer. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't want your CEO to be, reconciling the books. Get the bookkeeper to do that. That's like a low, or one of my organizations.
I like that too.
I love him, but he's like, Christina, I'm like booking flights to get, like he was doing admin. I'm like, can we please get you a virtual assistant? That's like $25, $30 an hour. You should be doing hundreds of dollars of an hour or being, your activities should ROI you. Do not do $25 an hour work. I love hiring contractors. I love hiring assistants, right? It's a great use of my time. It's a great use of their time. Yeah. And so it's like, how do we free up your time? So I don't think grant writing is it. I I love grant writing. I think it's an excellent revenue source. I just think it's not a great revenue source for you to focus on.
Okay. Thank you.
Just like bookkeeping. I mean, I can reconcile my books, I guess. And that's what David and Heather do for me. It's a great use of their time.
Their time. Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. And it's like, figuring out how do I create a new category and send, I'll just dump something and say, ask my accountant, y'all figure it out. And they know. It takes them 2 seconds. I'd have to go watch a tutorial on how to create a new category in QuickBooks when they can just do it in 2 clicks. Let them, that's their zone of genius. Let's let them do that. It sounds like you know how to connect with people very well. So your zone of genius is going to be connecting with people. So like, let's get you in the room connecting with people. We are running in the club, we're running Outreach Genius, which is my prospecting and outreach program. We do it like a sprint where we figure out who's in our network, who's outside of our network. Let's book some meetings with them. And like I said, I want you to get in the zone of booking meetings, making the ask, hearing no's, having a soft place to land when you hear no, so it's not catastrophic, hearing yeses, and then we go, and then we go, and then we go. And that's how we build out that funding fast to help pay for the assistant, the grant writer, those types of things. Yeah.
So is there a cheat sheet or something for what you just said? Because that's it. That's like the plan right there. It's that's the plan.
That's the plan. Is there a cheat sheet for what I said?
I got a lot of my questions answered. Like I just even made a note, because like every month I'm scrambling with the numbers and just what you said, I said to the accountant, I said, Aaron, I spent all weekend with this. Can you do something with this? And he sent it back in 5 minutes. I was not happy. I was like, how did you do that? He said, Elaine, this is what I do. And so one of the questions I'm going to ask him is, going forward, why don't you just give me the numbers so I can present them at the board meeting? Why am I struggling with it?
Yes. I use Asana, which is a project management system in my own business. Listen, I'm like a C+ in Asana, maybe a C-. Okay. And just last night, my assistant said, if you just make me an admin on that board, and I'm like, done. You're an admin now. Make it better. She's like, you'll be able to find things better. I don't want to watch a training on how to, that's her zone of genius. It's a beautiful thing. She works asynchronously. I'm happy to pay her. She's happy to get paid. It's great. And so if we can find some of those places in your own business, in your own organization, so that you can free up some time to go over here. And like I said, take big chunks out of those revenue goals, and the other piece is meeting more donors who you probably have some right now who are in your organization, supporting your organization, but we need to find more like them. Right.
Yes.
So it's like that ripple effect.
Yes.
Yeah. You can't do that when we're figuring out how to make a category in QuickBooks and how to figure out how to drag and drop my Asana board. I don't know. It's not
Agreed. Thank you so much.
I just dropped in the link to the club. I dropped in the link to the brochure, and then you can, for everyone, and then you can make a copy of the template. We close doors on Thursday. There is a payment plan, so you can do it that way too. But I highly recommend everyone that was on this call is ready. Everyone on this call is ready for the support. We're going to have focus time. We're going to have skill building. We're going to have live coaching. Just like today, we'll have a Facebook group. So if you ever want to drop in a page and you're like, hey, take a look at this email I'm writing. Take a look at this board email I just drafted. Can you look at our fundraising page and give me feedback? That all of that is what is the high touch support you'll get in the club.
Thank you so much. I need to jump on another call.
For sure.
I heard you a few weeks ago. You're
hyped up. You're ready.
Yeah. You hyped me up 2 weeks ago.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much. I'm going to follow up with you.
Okay, cool.
Take care. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Anyone else have any questions before we're at top of the hour? Thank you all so much for coming. This was great. And like I said, I'm going to stick this on the podcast. So we got through a lot today. So if you want to grab any takeaways or like listen to a part of it, you can catch the replay on the podcast. Yeah, you're welcome, y'all. Send me an email if you have questions about the club. And yes, I will see many of you inside. Bye. Like what you're hearing and want to take this to the next level, I want to invite you to go to purposeandprofit.club to watch my free class. In there, I will tell you the number one thing that's keeping your nonprofit or social impact business stuck and what to do instead. Go to purposeandprofit.club. Think you've reached out to everyone in your network? Are you out of ideas to get noticed and get funded? I hear you. That's why I'm giving you a chance to steal my prospect list. Yes, you can generate leads for your nonprofit or impact-driven business. Grab my mini training and list delivered to your inbox instantly. Go to splendidcourses.com/prospect.